Welcome to Kevin and Tenisha Mix It Up. Today we have with us on the podcast Ahkila Culver, who is my sister cousin, and Alex Culver, who is her husband. I'm super excited to have them on the podcast today because the topic that they're going to be sharing is something that is near and dear to my heart because it is applicable to how we became sister cousins, and I truly admire their drive and aspirations to be what we're going to be talking about today. So
there's a lot of mystery.
I know, right? Is it good? Not good?
No, it's good.
So I'm super excited, and Kevin, you got anything to say?
I just asked you to pause. I didn't ask you to introduce me.
Oh, and this is my cousin Kevin.
Every time I say I'm super excited, I get a look. So
because he doesn't even talk like that, I talk like that.
I'm so super excited to have my sister here today.
I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited too. I am excited mainly because not only are they sister cousins and brother-in-laws and all that good stuff, but I would consider them really good friends of ours. We do a lot together, and definitely always look forward to
spending time with them.
Yeah, the company. So this is just an extension of really conversations that we've already had on maybe individual levels, but I don't know that we've ever had this conversation, all four of us. So we really thought today, for this episode specifically, or this podcast, that their story and their journey will shed light on just something that I don't think it's talked about a lot.
It's definitely not talked about a lot in the African American community.
Yeah, so and this not only, like Tenisha alluded to, not only is it a journey that they're having right now, but something that she personally went through as well in a very similar situation. So it is an interesting what is it called, an interesting spiral, an interesting web of events.
No, yeah, you got that on your own.
So
I'm serious. Stop it!
Dogs is wilding.
Go lay down.
That's their life. We got kid sitters, but we don't have dog sitters, so we should have just took the dogs over there too and left Imani.
Imani would have left them. Oh my god.
Let her figure it out.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be something that if you don't know someone, that if you're not currently dealing with this situation or can relate to it, you know someone that can and would benefit from maybe hearing this episode. So I guess what would be the best way to introduce it?
Though we have an audience of people that some we know really well and some we don't know at all. Shout out to you guys for listening and watching this podcast, the people that we don't know personally, because you want to talk about super excited. That's super dope. So thank everyone. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. And for anybody listening for the first time, please go ahead and subscribe, share this with somebody that you love or like, if you like it. But for everybody, for all of our audience, they don't know them, pretty much.
So the best way to introduce them is to let them share themselves.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves. How did you meet? How did you continue your relationship? If you had to give the elevator speech on your relationship and marriage of the last 7 years, 8, 9, how many years
10.
is it? 10 years
of
your relationship. Give the elevator speech right now. Go.
No pressure. Well, it's funny because me and Keela both have different origin stories of how we met, because I met her junior year, but she met me sophomore year. But she met me junior year.
That's her story.
Yeah, that's her story.
I'm sticking to it.
And she's sticking to it. I chased to no avail. She's like, I'm not interested. But we kept a good friendship over that time. So
wait, junior year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Alex's story seems more correct.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Than
never
Ahkila's.
said nothing?
I wasn't interested.
Yeah, she's like, I can't have a boyfriend at this time.
Because what did she
focusing
have?
on
What
my
did you have
studies.
going on?
And I thought that she was lying.
Studies, okay?
But she was telling the truth, too, because I couldn't even imagine what a boyfriend at that time for you as a junior. There's such a gate as a 23-year-old that. So, yeah, no. But no, so what prom is when we kind of decided.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
literally
the
right
day
before prom.
That's
we
definitely the
just-
first time we met you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Never
right.
saw you, or I think maybe even known about you.
But I went on a first date with him before prom.
Including Kai Benford Sr.
Yes.
Oh, he went with
Yes.
you.
Yes,
Your
he
father.
did.
He
Yeah.
had his his little class reunion, and we just had to be in that space, that vicinity. Cause what was it? Not David Buster's.
As a junior?
As a junior, some game plays at Easton at that time.
KBB, I think.
Yeah,
K-
something like
okay,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that was there. And he's like, text me like, "Hey, where are you? Hurry up, come around." And then so I had to stay within that arcade area. I mean, we saw a movie.
Yeah.
But other than that, I had to come right back.
His presence was very much with us that entire night.
Wow.
And I'm sure it's been with you ever since that night.
Yes.
In some way or another.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, very
I
much
didn't
so.
know that.
So boom, y'all met in high school, like us, kind of. Y'all went to the same school, went to prom, and for a beginning of a high school relationship to be like at prom, it seems a little bit different than your average high school love story, right? Like that was the end of high school.
Yeah, very much so. Because right after we graduated, there's a small summer, and then we go our separate ways in different cities. So that was very different.
So what cities did you guys go to?
You went to Oxford, Ohio.
Yeah, I was like, Ohio.
I was like, I was like, Miami University.
Miami University.
We like to say Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, Miami, Ohio.
I went there. Oh, shit. I've been there before, cuz.
Yeah, and I was 3 hours away in Bowling Green. So for someone with shoddy vehicle, it was kind of far away, or at least seemed far away.
But you committed to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were together all through college.
Mm-hmm.
You guys went to a whole other country, not
study
together,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But wound up there together.
just so happened to
I'm just saying.
That's fine.
be together in a different part of the world.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
That was 9 hours away when we were in Italy. I was in Rome. You were in Torino.
Just about.
So we visited 2 times. She took a train up to see me. I took a train up to see her 3 times because I flew out to Cagliari.
Yep.
So 3 times. But I mean, we both had 2 different college experiences, but we experienced them together. It's weird to kind of say it that way, but we were in 2 different places, but we weren't. It kind of felt.
I like it that way, just because as individuals, you get to grow and experience college and all those. You have your own choices, not really be together in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed it because I had to be able to grow on my own in those moments. So
Yeah, that seems totally your style.
I know.
That's the thing I always tell Tenisha about y'all's relationship is when I like to analyze everyone else's relationship and not talk about my own. So what I tell her, y'all's whole situation fit you. I just feel like as you were growing and experiencing life and learning who you were and whatever, to have somebody, but to not have somebody all in your space,
Kila's not very, well, I can't speak to she's not very affectionate.
Speak to
That's very true.
So I felt like it was a safe way to introduce a relationship.
Yeah.
It's my first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your first and only.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of like, because you never had anybody. Like, we were skeptical about
very skeptical
where you were in the alphabet. Like, we
Yep.
we weren't sure
I
where
remember
she was.
Jaxon asked me like,
she showed no interest.
Do you like boys?
People?
I'm
You like
like,
people?
yeah.
Do you like humans?
Tanisha, is there anything I should be worried about? Shit, I don't know.
There we go, Tenisha cousin again.
I said shoot. So I was just great to know that you had someone, like, honestly, and that it was able to be, you were able to speak about it and be comfortable in sharing, because you're not one also to share.
That is great.
So, yeah.
So hitting the fast forward button even more, boom, 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 you guys get married, and through this whole relationship, through this whole time of, you know, getting to know each other, moving back into the same city, now seeing each other every other day, every day, whatever that looks like. And then you get married. At what point in all of that, like, when did you start having a conversation about, like, what marriage looks like, what life looks like? Was that early on? Was that later after you were more comfortable?
Did you think you were going to get married?
I honestly never saw myself married, but yeah. So like, I mean, we had a conversation honest, like early on, just because I was curious. I mean, that's essentially what it was.
I thought it was like a natural progression. Like, people get married, but I didn't know what marriage was. That's why I wasn't trying to push for it, because no one in my family had been married. So it's not like something I saw.
Wait, what?
No one on my side of the family had been married besides my grandparents.
That's wild.
And so I didn't know but on her behalf, you know, everyone gets married. And so we had two different views of what that meant and what that setup would be.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, we should just move in together. And she saw that completely different than, she would call it shacking up.
I'm not shacking up.
What is
We
this,
don't
shack?
shack up.
I'm like, no, it makes sense for two
spend
adults.
The night, we don't shack up.
Like, so.
I ain't never spent the night with you.
Okay.
Oh no, I guess I did.
I know a lot. No?
We's married now.
We're hitting the fast forward button into the.
It's confusing. It all, it all like blends together after a while.
So that's interesting. So you're like, okay, but why did you think that was a natural progression, even though that wasn't something you've seen in your family?
Something I seen on TV.
Okay.
Fresh Prince.
Yeah, I mean, like in the last season of a show, you know, they've been with whomever for so long, and then they get married. So I guess I thought that's what would naturally happen next.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the goal. I mean, yeah, and so was your whole point of a relationship, the end goal was always marriage, or no? Yes. Even though you said you didn't see yourself get married, once you decided I'm in this relationship, that's the end goal.
Yes.
So now you're married, and you're talking about marriage, or when does the conversation about, you know, we definitely, you know, see ourselves having kids arise? When does that happen? Because for us, I mean, I think we named our son when we were 17. He had a different name than he does now.
It was Traquan.
No,
yes, it was.
It was Tyshawn.
Tyshawn.
And we wisely moved away from.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
No disrespect to any Shawns or Ties or Quans.
Yeah, we moved away from all the Ty insert whatever name here. Yeah. But we named our kid Wait. Like, that's. I mean, we did talk on the phone for 6 hours every Saturday and 2 hours.
They did too.
Right.
I mean, we had little Timmy.
Yep, Tim.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
No. I don't know why.
A bear, right? Or a blanket?
Yeah, he had Sonny.
A blanket?
You act like what?
What?
I've never bought you a gift before.
Right. I remember carrying around some kind of bear or something.
Which one? I mean, it is a bear. I'm like... Well,
yeah,
I had
the
one
one
bear.
that Gavin stole.
Yeah, but that's a different one. That was a different one. So I'm like, which one?
I thought that was the one he got you.
That was so hilarious. I'm like, what is wrong? Like, why is she so attached to this little bear? Like, why can't my baby son just have this little bear that he fell in love with? And he was like, no, you're giving me back this dog. You're giving me back this stuffed animal. I don't care what it is.
We're going to fight.
That's funny.
So we had to go to Build-A-Bear and spend $45
on a bear.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Is his own bear?
Together.
He loved yours.
No, I mean, I don't know. I think we kind of talked about kids, but I guess not in a serious sense. Like, I knew that all the men in my family also have 4 kids. They might be illegitimate, but at some form or fashion, uncle, father, cousins, everyone has 4 kids.
Yeah.
So again, kind of following a natural process. I'm gonna have 4 kids when, down the line.
I never wanted 4. Just let everyone know. I never wanted 4.
No, and I was naive. I was naive at that time.
4 kids, Jesus.
It's funny now. It's hilarious now.
Yeah.
But no, then I was serious.
1 kid and 1 dog is enough, huh? All right. So along the process, you have, I think, family and friends all wondering the same things, right? Like, as soon as you're in a relationship, I think you have family members that are like, are they going to get married? Is this going to be the one? Like, as an adult, when you're in a relationship.
I feel like in our family, would you say that it's kind of like we were always kind of like to a default condition to think that you date to get married, and once you date and you're dating for so long, then you get married.
You don't date around.
Where I, now being an adult, I think sometimes you can date to find the perfect person to marry. Not everyone you date is going to be the person you need to be with for the rest of your life. So I feel like that's kind of, would you agree? Like, would you say that's kind of...
I agree.
So for me, I'm like, oh, she about to marry him. I don't know what that's going to look like, but she's going to marry him. And so...
And you say that because we didn't really know Alex.
Yeah.
Like, even though they were together for 5 years, I don't think I really knew Alex until they got married.
Yeah.
Like,
it's interesting.
You were there sometimes, but
I just remember him coming to the door like, Mr. Benford?
Mr. Benford?
And I would be like, oh, that must be for Akila. Like,
hello, Mr. Benford.
Mr.
Damn, where'd that fast forward button go?
So, like, but we never connected to you. And we understood that because you were there for her, like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You were courting her at that time. So.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I was like, what? He got a car. He got a job. So.
And he won her.
He got a Twitter name?
Right.
You got a Twitter name.
So, yeah, I think that was kind of one of the things where we were like, okay, this might be something for Keela. So after you guys got married, like, I know for us, it's one of those things where, especially in church and at home, you would say it was like, I got married and then a month later, I was pregnant. Like, I was
getting to it.
I was
in there like swimwear.
No, I messed up on my birth control. Please stop. So,
damn.
I think that was like, and then that was the same thing that happened to mom. Like, as soon as she got married, she had you. Yeah. So I think that kind of set the precedence for our family. Yes. How do you think that kind of, being newly married, were you guys even like, okay, now it's time to have kids, or were you like, let's just enjoy being fresh, newly married,
let's go get tacos on a Tuesday,
like enjoy a random? Yeah,
it's probably a mixture of both, right?
Yeah,
like because everyone says, oh, just take like a year and get to know each other, enjoy it. So we were kind of listening to that, but then pretty soon after we got married, we were like, if it happens, it happens.
Okay.
So it was like a hybrid.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, I think in the back, I'm definitely expecting it to happen though.
Did you?
Yeah, just because like everyone just popped up pregnant all the time. It's like, oh, okay, so it's just, I might be just fertile and it might just happen. But it's just like over time, it's just like, well, okay, well, it's not just popping up, not just happening. And it's just like, okay, well, maybe it's me. You know, like your family's like, okay, so when's baby coming? Baby coming?
And you felt that pressure. Like
yes,
you've had those
like,
conversations
like
a lot
of
early
pressure.
on.
Yeah, and I was like, well, if it's in the Lord's will, it will happen. And if it's in the Lord's will. And I kept saying a lot. And just like months. And then turns like a year, I'm saying the same thing. And at that point, like I'm in denial. So just like, I'm just putting on a front.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, I don't want any kids. I don't want any. And I was like, and even like working at a daycare, it's like, oh, Ahkila, like you're very good with kids, but it's like you don't want to be near them. And it's like, it's not, for me, it's like, it wasn't that. It made like a protection thing, but it's just like, well, when is my turn? Because everyone else is like having babies, social media, you can't scroll without seeing like a baby or a family. And so we actually went to the next part to go get checked out because they always assume it's the woman. And it's just like, okay, well, if I'm broken, that's the first thing that will come to mind. Like, oh man, I'm like, okay, my sister was able to have a baby, and Taria had a baby, mom had a baby, like that, and everything just happening. And then you're just like, oh, I had a couple miscarriages, but you know, it's not too bad. Oh, your family, she had one too, so you know, like it'll happen. And it's just like, well, when?
Yeah, I will never forget that day. It was like I don't know, it was a dinner though. I don't know if it was like a holiday or just a random Sunday dinner. And I remember mom being like, nah, we don't got no issues over here. And I'm like, Mom, you don't know that.
Yeah.
Like you don't know that.
Yeah.
So I remember you going through that. Though you weren't at the place to share, I could feel it. Like I could feel something. Because you know I'm very big on energy. So.
I think you two were the only, like at least the first time that we expressed it outside of our marriage was to you two.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Because I wasn't telling anybody.
Okay.
And that's when I got Koa, because Koa's emotional support dog.
And I remember that. Yeah.
First was they like, no, it's not. You're just making that up. Like, no, I'm telling guys, I'm being serious. He is an emotional support dog.
So you got Koa because
I was feeling depressed.
Okay.
So while all of these people, your friends, your family, it's naturally what people do. The first question is always, or the question every weekend or every time you get together with somebody is, so when are y'all having kids? Every time that question is asked is like another weight or another, something that's put on your shoulders to be like, dang, like stop asking me this question. But at the same time, nobody really knew what you guys were going through, because I mean, again, I don't think me and Alex, we didn't start a relationship really like until that conversation happened. Like it was always, what's up? How about them? Whatever. How about the Lakers? I don't really care about the Steelers. So, but it was always very surface level. And then somehow we transitioned to having a conversation like, yeah, we're trying to have kids, but it ain't happening. Like we're going through this process. When you did start that conversation, having that, was there any weight lifted off? Was there because I know initially, like, when we found out that you guys were having infertility issues, there wasn't a like, I don't think we knew like, oh, this was Keeler, this was Alex, or
we didn't know, like, who
it was just like y'all were trying for a long time. Right. Like y'all had been trying for a year and nothing had happened. So you were pursuing, like trying to figure out what's going on.
Also, I think this was like the start of, if something's off between the two of us or there's something wrong, we had always had this idea like we're not going to tell it to anybody, and infertility was like number one on that list. So, because I remember telling you and thinking like, dang, I got to tell Ahkila that I told Kevin because I wasn't supposed to say nothing, but it got out. So, blessing in disguise, but having that conversation with you kind of opened the floodgates of being open, and then because of that, I think it became a relief that I was able to actually tell people, and it wasn't like this secret that it's in the Lord's will if it's in, because no one's supposed to know that we're struggling.
Yeah.
We're supposed to just play it off like, we don't really care, but we do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're affected by it. So
see, and I knew, like, because Keela was like, yeah, y'all were living in the apartment, and I was like, well, don't you have to pay a deposit for him? And she was like, no, I don't. And I was like, so you're a doctor approved? So I was like investigating, and I was like probing. So your doctor approved for it? And then she was like, yeah, I don't have. And I'm like, so that means that he's an emotional support dog? And she was like, no, he's not an emotional support dog. I just wanted him. And I'm like, but if your doctor approved it, that means that he's emotional support. So what's wrong? And then she didn't talk to me for a week. So then I'm like, okay, something is wrong. Like, because that's her classic behavior when there's something wrong.
Like that's everybody could see, like, there was a point that shifted.
Yeah.
Where I don't know if it was a conversation that happened, or I don't know when it was. There's a point that maybe not everybody.
And I want to take that back. That doesn't mean that something is wrong. Something was happening and she wasn't ready to share. Because there's nothing wrong with that. But I think
we could see it.
Yeah, something was happening. And we have I'm very open about where I am.
No.
Clearly, but that doesn't mean that everyone else is. And I have this way of expecting everyone else to be because I am. So, okay. So I knew something was happening, but I wasn't sure. And I was just like, whenever she's ready to share, she will share, but I will not stop probing because I know once I start probing, I will never get it. Because I shared a room with her until I moved out. So.
Yeah, long time. And I had never been in that room.
No, of course not. Okay, proceed.
Was never in there.
Yeah.
But when you told me, like, I witnessed, like, you, like, drop a weight. It's like, I don't know if you had shared with anybody else, but it was like, even if you hadn't, it was like somebody who knows both of us, who's close to it, like, somebody else knows. Oh my God, I've been waiting to get that off. What did that conversation look like when you did tell Keela that you shared
Kevin.
it? I kind of don't remember it, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. Like, you were kind of upset, but like, I think because of who I told,
so not trusted.
You were like, okay, fine, all right. And then that became like a conversation that you were able to have with her, and it kind of just like a snowball effect. And it goes to show the whole like emotional support dog thing. Like there's things that you don't say outside of your marriage, and that was one of them. We were so secretive about everything, and it had no place because it just all it did was create conflicts. Now I can't talk to people. Now I can't be honest with people, Yeah. So.
And that's harder for you than it is for her.
Well, honestly, like for this infertility, it was so hard. It was so hard. Because I'm so open with you.
Yeah.
So I'm like I'm breaking. Like I'm like crying, driving.
Wow.
Breaking. I'm trying to cry now because like I was so emotionally just like, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. And that's when I just like, I express it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I do.
Can't.
Yeah. I remember when you told me, I was just like, I'm so happy. Like, I couldn't even, I was just like, you're going to be okay. You are going to be okay. And I just knew that right there was probably the biggest obstacle you have ever had to go through, especially in silence.
Yes.
Because you can only draw for so much. Like I was like, I knew something was going to happen.
Like, so many Deadpools.
It's only so many crayons you can use. You can only go to Michael's so many times before you've bought the whole store, right?
I go to Hobby Lobby. Thank you. Just saying.
So I was just. Unfortunately, I was waiting. I wasn't waiting for your breaking point. I was waiting for your willingness to release. If that makes sense. And I was just like, I'm not going to stop. Like, I'm just not going to stop because I know this might sound cocky, but I know her and I know what she needs. Because she's my sister. So yeah, I remember you saying, we're going to the doctor to have him to get testing to possibly do some infertility.
Oh, like IVF.
And she was like educating me on it to the point where I was like, okay, like I was researching stuff just so I can be able to have the open dialogue with her instead of like seeking information, seeking education. I wanted to have a dialogue with her. So,
and while you guys are having these conversations, what we haven't put out there yet is Ahkila was not the one struggling with infertility. So it was not Ahkila doing the treatments and things like that. What you guys found is that Alex was the one having the infertility struggle. And like you alluded to, they assume it's always the girl. You know, they assume it's the woman. All of those assumptions, you guys probably had those conversations. Then you find out, oh no, it's not her, it's me. What is that like?
Bruh. Well, I mean, again, there's a natural order. I'm supposed to have 4 kids. I'm supposed to just shoot them out, you know. And even when we were seeking out specialists, you know, I'm like, all right, well, let's find a nice girl doctor that Ahkila will like, you know, because they'll be working closely together. And I don't really know what prompted us to go see a urologist, but I had no concerns going into it. And, you know, when he was saying all these things, like, you know, you're low testosterone, I can't even, you know, count. I don't even have a sperm count to give you, and saying all these things, and it didn't register with me. And, you know, especially early on in marriage, finding myself in my marriage, add insecurity into that, and it didn't bode well for us as a couple. And then we're being secretive about it, and then so that by far, I mean, it could have all ended there because we weren't at a good place in our communication and our vulnerability, our honesty with each other. There were a lot of fights that were fueled by my own insecurities at that time, and it was really difficult.
what was that like for you?
Finding that out. Honestly,
Because for the beginning part till you found that out, did you take ownership of it, or were you just like, I don't know, what was that?
I mean, I feel like it just brought us closer together. So like, I wasn't do like the blame game, like, oh no, like to see, it's all your fault. It's not me. Like, no, it just brought us together because honestly, it still takes 2 to make a child. So it's just like, I don't want you to feel as if to take on, like, it's your fault. Like, no, there's other options. We can figure things out, and like we'll go from there. So I didn't want him to just feel as if take that blame, like, because if it was like me, I would feel like I'm the blame too, but I would want him to also be able to support me through this, like, no, it's gonna be okay. So if anything, we came together more than separated from that whole entire infertility process.
But were you internalizing it? Like, I can hear you say you guys came together, but I hear you say, like, as a man, X, Y, and Z, like, I feel like, did you guys come together, but you still have these internal, like, struggles?
Yeah, in that facet, we definitely became a lot closer. But I think that there were other insecurities tied to that would manifest itself differently. So we might not be fighting about kids or something like that, but she might say the word soft, or like, you know, like gives like some insult of soft, and I take it and I go way over the top with it because already in my head I have this insecurity of I'm a broken man. I have, you know what I mean? So
like trigger words.
Yeah. So I had a lot of trigger words, and so in that way we had like a lot of fights, I think, based off of that. So no, we definitely got closer, but you know, it led to other stuff for sure.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of times it's people say like the first 2 years of marriage, or, you know, you're this age range, like this is the hardest time to figure out in life. And here you guys are, not only like at a time where it's just hard to figure out life without these issues.
And mind you, this is the most time that we've ever spent together because we've spent so much time apart.
Right. So right off the bat, you guys get married. Now you move because you. I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag. You moved in together after you got married. I mean, maybe you got some things situated, right? But now you moving together. Now all of these things are happening. You guys are together every day for the first time, and throughout this first year, you guys are now starting to deal with all of this, and without it, it's hard. Yeah. Like figuring out each other, learning each other. There's so much balance already to figure out, and now you add this to the mix. One of the hardest things that you'll ever go through, period. Like life can happen from here on out, and you figure out a way to come together, right? But as you come together on this subject, you don't give up, right? You're still pursuing the idea of we're going to have a kid. Let's go down this path. Yeah.
This expensive path. Let's go down it.
What is an expensive path?
Well, at the time we were playing around with what's the other one? IUI. We were like, okay, well, at least maybe there's a chance for IUI, which is a more invasive process for me, but it's way less expensive. But that's when we went to the other doctor, or one of the doctors, I can't remember which one, and like, yeah, we don't even have enough of that to take from you surgically. So, we can't do that. We went to a doctor that was really high regarded. And I don't remember. Do you remember the exact phrasing that she said about?
I feel like she said it was dead on arrival.
Yeah, she said that my boys were dead on arrival.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That's.
And I'm just sitting there like, God damn. Like, what can we So I go back to my urologist, the one I had been seeing, and he's like, okay, well, we have the option of surgically, sucking it out of you, and then putting it into her. We could always do it that way. I don't know.
And that's a more expensive process, or
it becomes more expensive because
we're still go through IVF.
Yeah, we're still doing IVF plus my own procedure of extracting it surgically. So he's like, it's there's a chance that we could, miss something, and then, one of your testicles could just not work, but they already don't work, so, it's all right. Like, he's saying this stuff.
He said that? Yes.
I'm like, yo, can we... Like, geez.
What?
Yeah, so there's been, there's been so many... Like, I was so insecure about it, because I go to doctors, and I get, so I'm like... Yeah,
their transparency feels like shade almost.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, this is, I'm struggling right now.
Yeah.
I don't feel like joking with you.
Yes.
So, no, it felt horrible.
So, at what point did you guys say, okay, we're not going to continue to pursue IVF. We're going to look into other options of having our own child?
Or was it different for both of you?
Well, I've always wanted to adopt. So for me, since if I can't do IVF, it costs way too much. And there may not be a chance for that anyway. So I'm going to pursue the option that I've always wanted to do. It's adoption. So we started that process, started the classes.
And not to cut you off, but I'm going to cut you off. Okay. Because I think something we're missing here is you guys are what age?
I'm 28.
You're 28 at this point.
Yes.
Right? And oftentimes, everything that I've ever known about infertility, it's watching either on TV or with other people that I've known, it's people in their late 30s or 40s that have waited and, so then adoption is a different, I just feel like it's a different idea when you're 40 than when you're 28, because do you have people saying just you'll figure it out, it'll come, or
everyone is saying it'll come, just wait. Oh, you guys are still young, you've only been married got somebody, we were 7 years into marriage before we had our kid, you guys are fine. And so no one's pushing us to do adoption or seek other means of it.
And I did want to just throw that in there, because 28 in a world like in my understanding of the world, like, and you can correct me, it just seems more younger for someone to say like, yeah, let's start pursuing this avenue of adoption.
And we did several different medication types to try to like stick with that same path of, okay, well, we'll take this for 3 months, we'll take this for 6 months, we'll take this for, and still nothing really happened. And before we just said, okay, well, let's do adoption and take classes, my cousin kind of dangled a carrot in front of us and said, you know, I don't know if I want to be a parent. She took it back, but she kind of, and we had talked about in high school that we, you know, would love to adopt a kid. There's like kids out there, yada yada. But you know, that had kind of all fallen by the wayside.
Right.
And
yeah, because you were also doing that court.
Yeah. I was a guardian ad litem.
Guardian ad litem, yeah.
So
what is that?
It's like a court appointed liaison between the court and the family for a kid. So I just act on the court's behalf to talk to the child and express whatever their benefit or whatever their desires are to the court. So, you know, they kind of have.
So you're in the world already.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Yeah.
you understand way more than the average everyday person.
Yeah.
That side of what that looks like.
Yeah, but I think for me, I can't speak for you because you were always more mature in the process than I was. I think in my head, I still had, we're still going to have our own kid.
Even though you were looking into adoption, like
yeah,
it was still going to happen.
Yeah, we're still going to have our own kid. And I still have I have voices, you know, my father is telling me, you know, you just take, I'll give you a testosterone shot and, you know, it'll happen. And so, you know, again, I'm not really thinking about it. But we had that dangled carrot that was taken away from us. But from that experience and kind of opening our minds to the idea of taking in a child that wasn't biologically ours, we then said, okay, we could do this. So then when we started looking at classes and stuff, or taking classes, I should say.
Okay, keep going with whatever you were saying 10 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. I mean, when we started taking classes in Newark, and our dangled carrot arrived again, and we got the very last class, and we studied it was like adoption, because the main courses were fostering kids. They didn't really specialize in adoption because, you know, there are a lot of kids out there who really needs a foster family just to take them in, and there's people who are doing like kinship adoption. There was someone who's the same age as us inside the class too, and they were having some infertility issues as well, and so she's actually a foster parent. She has like 2 kids that she's fostering, so she's still like hoping for adoption.
That's great.
But our last class, like the day before, the didn't care, like, hey, I don't want to be a mother anymore. I don't want to do this.
I was like, all right, we've heard this before. We're not doing this. Just go away. And she was persistent. She's like, no. So I communicated her. I said, you said this before. Unless you tell me the exact words, I do not want to be a mother, then we're not having this conversation.
And this is somebody that, like you said, this is your cousin, but this is a child that has been with you since birth every weekend.
Yes.
You know, almost like days at a time, right? Like we knew him, like he was integrated into our family dynamic already.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like he was coming to family cookouts, coming to stuff. He was your nephew.
Yeah.
Or what is it? Cousin?
Your nephew cousin is what
nephew
it was.
cousin.
So we would
Was
call
what
it
it was.
nephew cousin back then.
We got a whole messed up situation. Sister, cousin, nephew,
Blended.
auntie, cousin, blend. Yeah, I don't have none of those. I don't have any of those things. So we count those as wins. But it isn't just like, so now you're pursuing these adoption classes with the idea. I remember having a conversation with you once. You're like, yeah, I don't really know. Like, we just get what we get. Like, what if we just get a little white boy? And
Yeah, because I really thought we were just going to foster
we're
a
in
kid.
Newark.
They're going to assign you somebody around your age range that you're looking for, but that's all I'm thinking is, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
Like you could say what your preference is, but there's no guarantee. It's like,
absolutely not.
Nope, they said all we have are white kids. If you want a black kid, it's not a good chance you get one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she did say
you
that.
still want to stay?
and that's because you were in I mean, it is my understanding in Franklin County, the majority of kids are black boys that need to be adopted.
Yep.
But it's more difficult to get into the mix in Franklin County, or what was it that you guys went to Newark?
I think because we were getting yes, and they didn't offer classes. The closest one that did offer this training was Licking County, because Franklin County is just too big. They can't possibly host these trainings to people, so they kind of outsource it to different counties. So
And it was free.
yes.
I didn't even think to ask if it cost.
Yeah.
So boom, you guys are pursuing this, and you're like, oh my God, what if it's just a little white boy and I got to teach him about black culture? And
Man, I was praying. I'm like, can you just work on my heart to accept?
help me.
I'm telling myself, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And you definitely expressed that to me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's not going to be difficult.
Yeah.
You know, like it's hard for someone of your own culture to understand your culture sometimes, let alone someone of a different ethnicity or race coming to your family and immediately from day one know that they're different, period, no matter what. You know, they're and then add on, like, that's just a lot. But it's like that, boom, and you're like, okay, like
Literally
we don't have to
before-
continue this class. You're almost done, right?
So she
right
said the
before the last
words.
class.
She said the words?
Yeah, she said the words. We had a long conversation. She said those words. And I talked it over with Keela because ultimately, because we were really hurt the first time that it happened. Earlier that year, I think in January of last year, it was mentioned, and of course, again, insecure. We're already having these issues. We have the prospect of taking in a child that we already know and we already love.
Yeah.
And we would love to take the opportunity to have in our household. And then she takes it back like just overnight.
Yeah.
So I had closed myself off to it, and I know Keela did because that caused kind of friction. So
I would say it wasn't just that one time. It doesn't just take that one time to close off to a person. Just from the beginning of his life, it has been, I think you gotta be better parents than me. Do you want him? So if anything would happen, would you take him? Here's your real mom and dad. Like she would tell this to him. Like these are your real parents. And then she'd disappear at points of a time when we were all together. So it's just like, okay, well, so if you got anything happen, would you want him? Would you want him? So
she did. Yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah, and it definitely, I think from our perspective, I don't think we ever didn't think you guys wouldn't end up with him, just the way that we would hear those things. And I just don't know that I thought it was going to be more similar to Tenisha's situation, that like before we knew about infertility, before we knew about any of that, it's like, I mean, yeah, there's a good chance that they have this kid on top of whatever else they got going on, right?
Yeah.
But very much more like you are parenting him as his mom is figuring out life, more like what, you know, Tenisha had been through. And we haven't talked about that, I think, a lot on the podcast, and the journey of just like.
So I will say, this is what I will say, because I don't think, I can't speak to how it affected me. I can only speak to how it affected me once I was there versus how I got there. But when Keela did introduce the conversation of Jaxon being adopted by you guys, I was fearful, and you guys know that I was very transparent about that, just because I knew that she was still going to be present, and I knew what that did to me. And we've had multiple conversations about that, and I was very like, Ahkila, are you equipped to be able to have these conversations with her? How do you feel navigating the fact that he may see her somewhere and she may pull him aside and say something that you've not been prepared for her to say. And because that happened to me, and I remember what was it, like a couple months ago, we were at the table and we were talking about the first interaction that they had and how that affected him. And I was like, I remember having that. And I was like, to the point where Mom said she could never see me again. And though we were living together, you were like, I never remember that happening. Because sorry,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for background context, you introduced Keela as your sister cousin.
Right.
You had been taken in at age.
So I was taken in. I was never adopted, but I was kinship care at that time. Back in the 80s, you could be kinship care until you were 18. Like, they never had to adopt you. So I was kinship care from the age of 7 to 18. And Keela's my cousin, but because I was raised by her parents, who her mom is my biological mother's sister, we became sisters because they took me in. So, though the relationship is similar, Jaxon was adopted. So there's a different level of type of ownership that they have. Like, cause he's yours, like he is yours 100%. So you you don't have to worry about anything at this point. And how much of a blessing is that for you?
Oh, it's a great blessing. It's like, because honestly, I couldn't, the back and forth type stuff, and then just being a little more secure within my role once the adoption was like finalized, and when he had put the carrot in her place, because in our minds, like, we thought that, okay, so after 6 months, maybe start have him like see her a little or talk a little bit more. And it's just like, after him being with us for 6 months, like, it's not the time.
Yeah.
We can't, it's not the time after everything. No. And like, she wasn't accepting of it. And even today, it's just like, you're not coming around our child. You can't respect who we are in his life. So if you can't respect us, I'm sorry, because he's our child.
Yeah.
So after that, like, I'm good.
It's nice.
Yeah, and we'll rewind and fast forward just a little bit, but all of that happened. You go through. We don't have to go into all of the details, everything you guys had to go through, but there were a lot of hoops and a lot of work. We have a lot of kids out here that need parents, that need families, and we have a lot of people and a lot of parents that want to take in kids, but it's not easy. And all of that, there's a reason for that. I'm sure you guys can speak to the reason why somebody just can't be like, yeah, I'll adopt this kid. Like, it's 2020. We know human trafficking is a thing. We know what people do to kids. Like, all of those safeguards are in place for a reason. But it doesn't mean it wasn't difficult for you to get from point A to point B with a kid that you had already raised from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday every year of his life, right? So, boom, hooray, hooray, adoption happens. You guys are officially, like, during COVID, sign a real paper, a fake, a screen. You just do whatever, right?
Verbal signature.
A verbal signature. Yeah. The adoption happens, and so I guess I just wanted to fill in that gap from point A to point W of how long it took to get to that point. When it happened, what was that feeling? What was that like for you guys, for everything that you have discussed for the past 60 minutes of meeting each other, being in a relationship, going through these difficult times, infertility, carrots dangled, carrots taken away, adoption classes, all of the work to put fire escape plans up in your house and ladders from your second story window, like home remodels, like all of that.
Outlet covers in every outlet, and no kid's gonna touch your outlet. It's just people coming every 6 months to check your house to see if things okay. Let me see the kid's room. Let me run your water just for 5 minutes to see if it's hot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Very invasive process and asking you about your life and how you feel about stuff. And
yeah, good thing you had already figured out how to be open with people before
right,
that,
man.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there would have been red flags. But Jaxon made us a family, and we knew that we wanted to protect him, and the only way that we could do that is to make sure that he knew that he had a home and to make a home for him. And a part of that was to kind of take away, you can't completely take away any kid's fear of something, but we saw that there was a clear issue with the carrot's presence. So we were like, okay, well, we need to, at least for right now, separate that. And from a emotional standpoint, I won't lie, it was hard for me because I love Jaxon, but I also love that carrot. And
his mom. We could,
the biological mom.
Biological mom.
I also love his bio mom. And for me, emotionally, in a legal sense, yes, there's nothing that bio mom can do.
Right.
But I had two barriers that protected me before that bio mom could get to me, and both of those barriers passed away. And so, from a legal sense, I'm gratified. I don't ever have to look over my shoulder and wonder, we'll have brand new birth certificates, but there's always going to be, for me, like a lingering presence of, I know she's out there, and I know that she's hurting in some form or fashion, and who knows, she might just show up one day.
Yeah.
And that for me has been kind of frightening. So I'm not all the way at peace,
right?
But
and that's the difference. And even what Tenisha was talking about, that the difference is that you're adopted and you don't have to worry. Like, there are things you don't have to worry about legally, but some of the things that you still dealt with could potentially still be present in their lives in the foreseeable future, in the distant future, what have you. And I guess my question for you is, what did that look like for you? Or is there anything not advice, but just like information you can shed light on? Like, what does that look like when everything's going great and, your biological mom shows back up into the picture?
So for me, I won't say everything wasn't going great, but that chapter was never closed because I was never adopted.
Yeah, and you were older.
So there was but regardless, I was never adopted. So there was always that glimpse of hope that she may come back. And she was always present, but not engaged. Like, I would see her at church, or see her at my grandmother's house. So she was around, but there was never any investment in regaining custody. So it was very much an open, it was most likely I would depict it as a hopeless romantic, because until I turned 18 was I able to say, at this point, my aunt and uncle Treva and Kai are actually not my biological mom and dad, but are my mom and dad.
And that took you until you were 18.
And it took me until I was 18.
Wow.
Because
and they knew that.
It was always on Treva and Uncle Kai. Like, that's the relationship that you had. And I think, and I remember, like, that was a big deal for you to start calling them mom and dad.
It was a big deal for them too. Yeah. I mean, we had conversations about it, and I'm very close to my biological dad, but I didn't get a relationship with him until I was 25. And now we call him Padre. And my dad knows that I call my biological Padre and I call my uncle Dad. Like, and Padre.
No one else can figure it out.
Yeah, but Padre respects that.
Even family members.
Right. Yeah, I know. And we've had conversations about it and we've had dialogue about it. And he's been open and transparent in the life events that occurred prior to me and during. And so, I mean, you know, it's just, that was why I was so fearful for you all. But I think that, again, something that I told you that Jaxon has that I did not have. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a situation where I don't ever think that they wouldn't have adopted me, but by them not, it provided me with other advantages as an adult. So I was happy to hear, you know, like I was trying to get to the Zoom meeting for court because I wanted to be a part so bad. 'Cause I know what that will mean to him when he gets older. You know, like it's just, it's great.
Yeah, and not only did he gain, you know, and I think, you know, me and Alex have talked about this, not only did he gain a mom and dad, like he gained a family, he gained cousins, he gained things that Alex nor I really didn't have growing up. He gained grandparents who are present. He gained, you know, all of these things that we has watched on Fresh Prince or Boy Meets World or I don't know, SpongeBob. Does SpongeBob have parents? I never watched SpongeBob. But he, all of those things now. And what does that mean for you? Or have you guys had those conversations of that it's more than like, yes, we have this family, but in our immediate family, but how cool is it now for him to have more than that?
It means the world to me. I won't lie that I still struggle with my own insecurities, but I almost feel like I feel so honored to be able to bring him to a space where he has dependable people in his life that I couldn't always say he always had. And, you know, I look so forward to the future and seeing him grow up with these people. And I mean, it means the world to me, you know? Yeah. And I think one of the myths was, with adoption is that everyone in your family accepts it. And that has been far from the truth, at least as it pertains from some of my biological family members, that don't accept him as my son and don't accept him as their grandson.
Wow.
And so then I look at, you know, my family that I married into, and without even question, it was immediate.
Right.
Okay, that's your son. That's our family member. And I'm honored for that, to have that.
I also wonder too if that's because we're so enmeshed. Jesus. Like, you know, we got kids all over.
Well, I think it's not. I think it's because partially because it's a new thing, but you introduced like the family to this other side of like your mom and dad raised a whole child
that was not theirs
for 11 years
and walked someone down the aisle that was not theirs.
Right.
Gave them away. Yeah.
And even before you were 7 were very present in your life because they wouldn't have just taken you in if they weren't, right? Like, so for how many years had they poured in and invested in you and been present for you? And everyone else around saw that. Keela saw that for her entire life, you know, or how old were you? 4? When she came?
Her entire life.
Her entire life. Like, you saw that your entire life. Like, Tenisha, you knew, like, you didn't call Keela a sister. Like, right?
No, I don't know.
Like y'all didn't. Y'all probably.
I mean,
just
for me,
didn't.
like
I guess.
I even today I can't say cousins.
Yeah,
Right.
I can't say cousin, sister, cousin. I can't.
Right. Y'all are
like,
sisters, but like for your whole life, it was completely known that she was not your sister. You knew that.
Yeah.
But you accepted her as your sister, right? Like it was Imani, y'all's younger sister. It's completely known that you are not biological sisters, but everyone accepted you as that. So this is more of a normative, like it's almost like the most perfect situation for us.
Completely.
You know?
Completely, and I think the reason why I've had some kickback on my father's side, they didn't have that same experience. Actually, they had a similar experience, but it went in the different direction. There wasn't that close knit with an aunt that became a mom and an uncle that became a dad. That didn't happen. So in their experiences, this isn't going to turn out right.
Right.
So yeah, I think you're right. It was completely, this family was molded just well enough to accept Jaxon in as our own. And
I love Jaxon.
Right.
Auntie Tenisha. Auntie Tenisha. I love him.
Oh my gosh.
Because there's just something, it's something about him that feels like he belongs. I can't describe it. It's just something about him that I just adore, and he belongs to us. Like,
yeah. So now I think the last piece, because what this is all about is it's about telling our stories, telling your stories to make an impact. You know, Kevin and Tenisha Mix It Up is our whole channel, our whole podcast, whatever it is that we do. I think in our personal lives, in our professional lives, in this creative stuff, it's about making a positive impact on others and through transparency. Because Tanisha's super transparent, I'm very transparent. You guys come on here, and everybody else that's come on here has been transparent in attempt to shed some light on whatever anybody's going through, in attempt to, you know, for somebody listening to say, I can relate to that, or wow, I never thought about that. Wow, I didn't know people my age went through this. They're just like me, whatever.
Yeah.
or marriages can manage this, you know?
Yeah, like we can get through this.
If you have the desire to do so.
I think, what do you say to an audience of people that, you know, you don't know, be it that they connect with your story or that they don't?
I would say that I've always subscribed to a natural order to things, yet everything in my life challenged that. And I could either fight it and just have issues all the time, or I could learn to accept it and learn from it. And a part of ignorance is being able to entertain different ideas that you didn't necessarily think were possible. So entertain anything that you can, challenge what you think is the only way. It's not black and white. There's just so many colors in there. So that would be my advice to anybody, is to learn from what is happening, because man, you could just live in ignorance, or you could learn from it.
And I guess for myself, it's just transparency, honestly. Because like a lot of times within this world, we just try to hold on to so much stuff, and we put on this facade like everything's okay, but it's not. And there's so much mental like illnesses, cut that out probably, that's going on. and it's just like, if I didn't say anything, I don't know where I'll be at this moment, because like I was losing it, because I was like really depressed and losing it. And I thank God so much, just the desire, like, okay, thank you for this situation you put me through, because it taught me that there's people out there who's just like me, who can also hear my story, because I met some people from my small group.
Yes.
She had knew someone who had our same exact story, but they went through a sperm donor to start their family. So like I was grateful for that experience, and then just the messages at that time. It's like we used to like Philippians, so I was like the strength in all that, and that we have all these situations, and it just spoke volumes to what I needed to be within my life, and just to be accept and have that find that unshakable joy. That's what it was, is to find that, because life it happens, everything happens, bad thing happens, but trying to find the good within every moment of every day and hold on to that. So it just really be transparent, find that person that is your person, or if not, seek help from someone to get that help, because don't hold on to like the biggest stuff or even like the small things, because it builds up.
Yeah, and what I've held on to, when I told you guys about it, I think we were at Brew Dogs, and I don't know if I think it was you that said it, but thank you for telling us, because now we know how we can help you. Now we know what to pray for, because otherwise, if we don't know what you're struggling with, how can we help you? So yeah, you're right. Transparency, be open, be honest with yourself and with your partner, for sure.
Yeah, and that's, you can say that and we can say that, and it's a learned, for a lot of people, like it is definitely a learned thing, and it takes hard times in relationships to make them what they are, I think, and sometimes like those hard times are clear signs that maybe this isn't what we want it to be. Like maybe this doesn't work for us, and decisions have to be made. But sometimes those same hard situations for other people are the things that bring them closer together, like you guys, like situations that we've had that start to propel life forward. And now it's going to be, you're still going to face these situations because life is difficult. Like all things in life, like your son's probably going to beat somebody up one day or get beat up one day. Like that's going to be really hard, and you're not going to be in that moment like, let me just look back to the time that was the hardest point when I was 27 years old or 20, whatever. But it's still preparing us for moments like that later in life, because we're going to deal with those situations differently, having been through some things and worked through some things together and not just by ourselves.
Completely agree.
I mean, I think too, one of the things I think that may go unnoticed but has so much value is just in your transparency. It all began with being honest about how you feel. Like you continue to say it's something that I'm still struggling with. That's honesty. And that in that honesty, you're able to then continue your narrative and grow. So for people in the audience that may be like, well, how do you even start? Start by being honest about how you feel. You said once you started being honest, you were able to gain support and be able to manage where you were at each phase of this process. So,
and I think that will also help in being honest. I think that will also help you acknowledge or recognize who your support group is, because I was honest with a lot of people that I quickly found out, oh, they ain't here for the long haul. So definitely start there.
It's good. Well, I just want to commend my sister for being able to be on our podcast. I've been trying to get her on here for the last 5 weeks, and she has been saying, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. And she did a phenomenal job.
No, thank you.
You did. You definitely did.
Well, thank you guys for coming out and sharing your story and doing a phenomenal job.
Well, sure. Well, everyone else on your podcast has always come in and given you that praise, so I can't let this moment go by without doing that.
What?
No. And I directed that at you two because we've always been able to come to you with whatever. Call you late at night. Hey, this just happened. What do we do? Mm-hmm. Whenever we have an issue, we know who we want to go to first. So everything about this process, as long as it's been as trying as it's been, I feel like, I mean, obviously with God, but a part of that has only been possible because we had you two to rely on through all of it. So thank you too.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And that's the beauty of it is like, we had to a lot of times figure it out, and you guys figure some things out, and there's going to be people coming to you, you know, like, and what we're doing is building, furthering, adding to a foundation, and creating this family for our kids to grow up in, and for our kids to not struggle with transparency or not, like we're trying to remove roadblocks for our kids. And if they see us communicating effectively with each other, with our sisters, brother-in-laws, cousins, grandpas, whatever, like the more they see us communicating effectively, the more our family is, continues to grow and continues to thrive. So let's keep to it. So again, thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys.
And please please subscribe, rate, give us a rating. Definitely, if you haven't heard the other podcast or checked out any of the other videos, check us out on YouTube. Kevin and Tenisha Mix It Up on all the podcast streaming apps, and let us know what you think. Let's start a dialogue. We'd love to do that. We'll see you all next time. And by see you, I mean we won't ever see you unless you're on the podcast.
Bye.